In summary, to get these two books, the summary for these two books, I found, as I said, there was no real definitive comparison that one can make. The two books are just incongruous. They're different subject matter, completely different eras, two different eras. Of course, one was written in 2018, the other one was 1923, if I'm correct. So, or 26, excuse me. And completely, things of history itself just can't be written in that context. As I said, these days, so this is a personal commentary, these days it seems very, very nouveau to compare everything to Adolf Hitler or fascism. I think that's a detriment. Definitely it's a detriment dealing with this subject, dealing with anything dealing with race, at least as far as comparing a book like Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility to Mein Kampf. I think there's a major error in those people who don't outline where the comparison is in the book. Now, I went through that. I went through all the pages of the book and could not find anything at all that where these two books would even overlap each other, unless you were doing it strictly as a study group, to say that you were studying maybe writings on racism or writings about or that dealt with race. Hitler's book does not deal specifically with race. He's more complaining and lamenting about Jewish people. But then again, Hitler did not love any people. As I said before earlier in my review, he doesn't really have any particular love for fellow Austrians or even fellow Germans, who even though he claims to be establishing a Reich, he doesn't really want all the Germans in the Reich. He only wants specific Germans in that Reich, the ones that agree with him, of course. So it's rather peculiar insofar, or there I would say, he only wants the Germans that will agree with his program for ruling the Reich in the Reich itself. Everybody else, be damned, is what basically pretty much what he says in the book. In fact, there's a strange passage in it talking about people fighting for the future, and those that are willing to fight, let them have at it, and those that, whatever happens. It basically, he basically leaves everything up to care or free, to the lessons of. Matter of fact, he actually does use the word to the goddess of fate. That actually is a quote in the book that he really does mention about the goddess of fate, which is strange, but not one for a man who's as violent and dystopian as Hitler is. As for DiAngelo's book, her vision is a little bit more, definitely more inclusive, and definitely not as dark. And definitely not, or I should say, not dark, but not as dystopian. It seems that her book is an attempt to try to elevate. If you are a person who is unfamiliar, her book is again more like a primer than anything specific. I would say, because of the 40 footnotes, she does suggest that you read several other works. And she actually does give notes on the PBS television series, Eyes on the Prize. That is important. I watched that entire documentary when it was on PBS. And again, that's a very, very good documentary if you are a person who might want to understand something about race in America. As I said, Hitler does not talk about race in America because, of course, he's not American. So I wouldn't expect him to mention anything about race in America, although again he has, or the Nazi Party of course, developed certain theories about race, and all of them were, of course, literally almost every one of them were were bonkers, or there I would say ludicrous. So I didn't want to, again, to bore anyone with the full details of this. And again, as I said, the book reviews took me months to read the books, and I wanted to do this video in under 40 minutes so that this way you could digest that information and share your own opinion. As I said, this is my first time doing a video like this. Never expected that. I hope my voices didn't bore you, and I hope it wasn't over encumbersome. I thought maybe I would be succinct. I did write some notes on each book and took the time to write down the certain notes of what I thought was important in each book to focus on. As I said, for Hitler's book, because it's a bigger book, I had more personal notes. But today I decided to sort of do this video and kind of wing it on what I'm off of memory, because really all the notes that I had about the book were not specifically overviewed or major to leave out in the book itself. As I said, if you are reading it, you'll find it. You'll see the contradictions in Adolf Hitler's work, and you'll see, in my opinion, kind of the weaknesses of Robin DiAngelo's book, because she is talking about her personal experience being a coach or being brought in to talk about race sensitivity. I'm not sure if if race sensitivity classes are the best way to discuss the matter of race in America. As I said, it's a long way. We've come a long way here, but there's major aspects of American history that are always left out of these discussions when one is talked about race in America. And dare I would say, you cannot expect one author, even if it is, and especially one who's writing basically a primer book on a subject of race, to, quote, solve the race problem, because that's a very peculiar concept. There is no race problem. The problem is with the racist, not the races, if you understand the point. So I didn't want to go into a long diatribe about that. I wanted to be succinct and try to be, at least as far as the subject was concerned here. As I said, my first video, so I will, like I said, listen to other people's opinions, and maybe as I read over your comment sections in each of these books or about the subject matter, as I said, I did not want to bore anyone with details, but I did take some time in understanding each author and each book. As a final comment, as I said before, the books to me are incongruous. One is a political manifesto, and a political manifesto and a personal view of the world according to his outlook. The other, although again dealing with personal matters, is kind of a work dealt on from the basis of sociology. So you have a sociologist writing one book in White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, and a failed artist, dare I would say, writing his own book, Mein Kampf. You have two people who are completely different educational backgrounds. So how can the two books be congruent to each other is absurd to me. At least I thought it would be wise to point that out to those who would make the comparison of the two books, strictly because of that point of view. It's a good open letter. You're free to comment, and I guess that will be the end of my, at least at this point, I will end my personal reviews of these two books. Like I said, if you get them, go to your local library, which is what I did, and got these two books from two different libraries in my environment. One from my neighborhood, the other from a library that was just slightly outside my neighborhood, and it's time to return the books. So thank you for listening, and I hope you do read and I hope to promote reading. This is it's important subject matter, and it's something that you, and like I said, leave it up to your mind to determine it, what you think of these two books. Okay, so as I said, I'll sign off, and hope to hear from you in the comment section. They are free to open. I'll keep them open for you, but let's have a serious discussion. No crazy nonsense. I would hope to leave that out. Like I said, we don't want to be saying things that are completely outlandish, but I do want free-flowing discussion and